The Last Guardian. The eternal vigilance cut through the vast emptiness of space like a blade, its massive hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. The Alliance flagship represented the pinnacle of cooperation between 17 different sentient species, a testament to what could be achieved when ancient rivalries were set aside for the common good. But deep within the ship, Commander Derek Ozeran walked alone. Standing over 8 feet tall, his silver-blue exoskeleton caught the dim light of the corridor as he moved. The few crew members he passed pressed themselves against the walls, their eyes averted. Some whispered after he passed, thinking their words wouldn't reach him. They were wrong. The Ancient, a human technician, muttered to her companion, 376 years old, and still in active service. They say he's the last Valkyrie warrior to have fought in the Nebula Wars. I heard he once executed his entire squad for retreating from battle, her companion replied. His own people are terrified of him. Derek's auditory receptors twitched slightly, but he continued forward without acknowledging them. Such rumors had followed him for decades, growing more outlandish with each telling. He neither confirmed nor denied them. Fear created distance, and distance was preferable to the alternative. In the 3 centuries since the fall of Valkyrie Prime, Derek had learned that attachment was merely prelude to loss. Better to be feared than to be mourned. He arrived at the training deck precisely on schedule. The cavernous space was empty, as he preferred it. Commander Ozeran's daily training sessions were legendary throughout the fleet, and unofficial spectator sports for brave crew members who occasionally risked watching from the observation deck above. Today, however, the observation area remained dark. He would have privacy. Derek approached the weapons rack and selected a training staff, the metal humming softly in his grasp. He began his exercises, movements perfected over centuries flowing together in a deadly dance. His species possessed natural armor and enhanced strength, but it was his experience that made him truly dangerous. The door to the training deck slid open unexpectedly. Derek turned, staff raised defensively before he'd fully processed the movement. In the doorway stood a human woman, small by Valkyrie standards though tall for her species, with dark hair pulled back tightly and alert eyes that appraised him without visible fear. "Commander Ozeran?" she asked, her voice steady. Derek lowered his staff slightly, but didn't relax his stance. "This deck is reserved for my use at this hour." "I'm aware, sir." She straightened to attention. "Lieutenant Maya Chen, recently transferred from the Horizon Division. I've been assigned to your tactical response unit." Derek's secondary eyelids flickered in surprise. It had been 17 years since anyone had been assigned to his unit. After the incident on Proxima II, Alliance Command had tacitly agreed that Commander Ozeran worked best alone. "There has been a mistake," he said flatly. "I don't accept new personnel." The human didn't move. "With respect, Commander, there's no mistake." Admiral Voss personally approved the transfer. She held out a data tablet. "My orders." Derek made no move to take it. "I will speak with the Admiral." "The Admiral anticipated your response," Lieutenant Chen said, a slight smile appearing at the corner of her mouth. "He instructed me to inform you that this assignment is non-negotiable and that he is, quote, tired of your lone sentinel act." For a moment, anger flared behind Derek's primary eyes. A brief crimson glow quickly suppressed. Admiral Voss was one of the few beings in the Alliance who didn't fear him, perhaps because the Centaurian had nearly 2 centuries on Derek himself. "What are your qualifications, Lieutenant?" he finally asked. 4 years tactical operations with Horizon Division, specialized training in xenobiological threats and hostile environment adaptation. I'm rated expert in 12 weapons systems and hold the Alliance record for the Sigma-class combat simulation. Derek's head tilted slightly. "You broke my record." "Yes, sir," she confirmed without boasting. "By 7 seconds. Simulations are not reality, Lieutenant." "No, sir. Reality is significantly messier." Derek studied her for a long moment. There was something in her composure that didn't match the typical human response to his presence. No fear, but also no challenge, just calm assessment. "You understand what my unit handles?" he asked. "High-risk interventions, first contact gone wrong, extinction-level threats," Chen recited. "The missions no one else is expected to return from." "And you volunteered." It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. "I requested the assignment specifically." "Why?" Derek demanded. "Because I want to learn from the best," she replied without hesitation. "And because I believe I have skills that would complement yours." Derek's chidness plates shifted in what might have been amusement or irritation. Humans always believe they have something to offer. "Not always," Chen countered. "But in this case, yes." Before Derek could respond, the ship's intercom activated. "Commander Ozrin to the command deck. Priority alert." Derek set the training staff back in its rack with precise movements. "Report to me at 600 tomorrow. Do not be late, Lieutenant." "Yes, sir," Chen replied, stepping aside as he moved toward the door. "And Lieutenant," he added, stopping beside her. This close, he towered over her human frame. "Breaking my simulation record doesn't impress me. Survival might." The command deck of the Eternal Vigilance hummed with activity as Derek entered. Advanced holographic displays showed strategic maps of Alliance space, with one particular sector highlighted in warning red. Admiral Voss stood at the central command station, his elongated Centaurian frame draped in the midnight blue of Alliance High Command. His 4 arms were in constant motion, manipulating data streams and communicating with different sections of the massive ship. "Commander," the Admiral acknowledged without looking up. "We have a situation." "We always do," Derek replied. "Is this why you've saddled me with a human lieutenant?" Voss's primary eyes remained on the tactical display while his secondary pair fixed on Derek. "Lieutenant Chen is one of our most promising officers. Her unorthodox approach to problem-solving will balance your traditional methods." "My methods are effective." "Your methods are brutal," Voss corrected. "And sometimes we need alternatives. But that's a discussion for another time. Right now, we have a more pressing concern." The Admiral gestured to the highlighted sector. "The research outpost on Eridani VI has gone dark. Last transmission indicated they were tracking unusual energy signatures in the planet's northern hemisphere." "Then nothing." "Science division problem," Derek said dismissively. "It became our problem when we received this." Voss activated a communication channel. Static hissed through the speakers, interspersed with broken words. "Found something. Ancient defense system. Can't contain. Request immediate. They're coming through." The message ended with a scream that made several bridge officers flinch. Derek remained motionless, but his exoskeleton darkened slightly, a physiological response to heightened alert. "How many personnel at the outpost?" he asked. 32 researchers, plus a security detail of 10, Voss replied. "No response to any communications in the past 12 hours. I'll prepare for immediate deployment. Take Lieutenant Chen with you," Voss ordered. "Her xenobiological expertise may prove useful." Derek's mandibles clicked once, a sound those familiar with Valkyrie knew indicated annoyance, but he nodded. "As you command, Admiral." Lieutenant Chen was waiting in the hangar bay when Derek arrived, already dressed in tactical gear with a compact field kit at her feet. "You're informed of the mission parameters?" Derek asked. "Yes, sir. Research outpost gone dark. Possible xenobiological threat. Search and rescue with potential containment protocols." Derek studied her gear with a critical eye. "Your armor is insufficient. Standard issue is restrictive. I prefer mobility over protection." "Mobility won't matter if you're dead, Lieutenant." Chen met his gaze steadily. "With respect, Commander, I've survived 16 deployments in this configuration. I know what works for me." The corner of Derek's mouthplate shifted in what might have been the Valkyrie equivalent of a grimace. Without another word, he turned and boarded the assault shuttle, a sleek craft designed for rapid deployment into hostile environments. As Chen settled into the co-pilot's seat, Derek initiated the launch sequence. The shuttle hummed to life around them, systems coming online with practiced efficiency. "This is your first true combat mission with me, Lieutenant," Derek said as the hangar bay doors opened to reveal the blackness of space. "There are things you should understand. I do not take unnecessary risks. I do not leave missions incomplete. And I do not lose personnel under my command." "Understood, Commander." "No, you don't," he countered. "When I say I don't lose personnel, I mean I will terminate anyone who becomes a liability, including you." Chen didn't flinch. "That won't be necessary. We shall see." The shuttle launched smoothly into space, accelerating toward the distant research outpost. As the stars streaked past the viewport, Derek observed his new lieutenant from the corner of his eye. Most humans would be nervously checking equipment or attempting conversation to ease the tension. Chen simply studied the mission data on her tablet. Occasionally, "The Last Guardian." The eternal vigilance cut through the vast emptiness of space like a blade, its massive hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. The Alliance flagship represented the pinnacle of cooperation between 17 different sentient species, a testament to what could be achieved when ancient rivalries were set aside for the common good. But deep within the ship, Commander Derek Ozeran walked alone. Standing over 8 feet tall, his silver-blue exoskeleton caught the dim light of the corridor as he moved. The few crew members he passed pressed themselves against the walls, their eyes averted. Some whispered after he passed, thinking their words wouldn't reach him. They were wrong. The Ancient, a human technician, muttered to her companion, 376 years old and still in active service. "They say he's the last Valkyrie warrior to have fought in the Nebula Wars. I heard he once executed his entire squad for retreating from battle," her companion replied. "His own people are terrified of him." Derek's auditory receptors twitched slightly, but he continued forward without acknowledging them. Such rumors had followed him for decades, growing more outlandish with each telling. He neither confirmed nor denied them. Fear created distance, and distance was preferable to the alternative. In the 3 centuries since the fall of Valkyrie Prime, Derek had learned that attachment was merely prelude to loss. Better to be feared than to be mourned. He arrived at the training deck precisely on schedule. The cavernous space was empty, as he preferred it. Commander Ozeran's daily training sessions were legendary throughout the fleet, and unofficial spectator sports for brave crew members who occasionally risked watching from the observation deck above. Today, however, the observation area remained dark. He would have privacy. Derek approached the weapons rack and selected a training staff, the metal humming softly in his grasp. He began his exercises, movements perfected over centuries flowing together in a deadly dance. His species possessed natural armor and enhanced strength, but it was his experience that made him truly dangerous. The door to the training deck slid open unexpectedly. Derek turned, staff raised defensively before he'd fully processed the movement. In the doorway stood a human woman, small by Valkyrie standards though tall for her species, with dark hair pulled back tightly and alert eyes that appraised him without visible fear. "Commander Ozeran?" she asked, her voice steady. Derek lowered his staff slightly but didn't relax his stance. "This deck is reserved for my use at this hour." "I'm aware, sir." She straightened to attention. "Lieutenant Maya Chen, recently transferred from the Horizon Division. I've been assigned to your tactical response unit." Derek's secondary eyelids flickered in surprise. It had been 17 years since anyone had been assigned to his unit. After the incident on Proxima II, Alliance Command had tacitly agreed that Commander Ozeran worked best alone. "There has been a mistake," he said flatly. "I don't accept new personnel." The human didn't move. "With respect, Commander, there's no mistake." Admiral Voss personally approved the transfer. She held out a data tablet. "My orders." Derek made no move to take it. "I will speak with the Admiral." The Admiral anticipated your response. Lieutenant Chen said, a slight smile appearing at the corner of her mouth. "He instructed me to inform you that this assignment is non-negotiable and that he is, quote, tired of your lone sentinel act." For a moment, anger flared behind Derek's primary eyes. A brief crimson glow quickly suppressed. Admiral Voss was one of the few beings in the Alliance who didn't fear him, perhaps because the Centaurian had nearly 2 centuries on Derek himself. "What are your qualifications, Lieutenant?" he finally asked. 4 years tactical operations with Horizon Division, specialized training in xenobiological threats, and hostile environment adaptation. I'm rated expert in 12 weapons systems and hold the Alliance record for the Sigma-class combat simulation. Derek's head tilted slightly. "You broke my record." "Yes, sir," she confirmed without boasting. "By 7 seconds. Simulations are not reality, Lieutenant." "No, sir. Reality is significantly messier." Derek studied her for a long moment. There was something in her composure that didn't match the typical human response to his presence. No fear, but also no challenge. Just calm assessment. "You understand what my unit handles?" he asked. "High-risk interventions, first contact gone wrong, extinction-level threats," Chen recited. "The missions no one else is expected to return from." "And you volunteered." It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. "I requested the assignment specifically." "Why?" Derek demanded. As they approached the entrance, a sound caught their attention. A soft, rhythmic clicking coming from inside the facility. Derek signaled for Chen to hold position, while he advanced cautiously toward the door, weapon raised. The clicking grew louder, more insistent. It reminded Chen of something, though she couldn't immediately place it. Then recognition dawned. "Commander, wait," she began, but it was too late. Derek had already crossed the threshold when the first explosive charge detonated, collapsing the entrance behind him in a shower of debris. More explosions followed in rapid succession throughout the facility. "Commander," Chen shouted, rushing forward despite the danger. Through the dust and falling debris, she saw Derek struggling to free himself from a section of collapsed ceiling. And beyond him, advancing from the shadows, came clicking, skittering shapes. Metallic creatures the size of large dogs, with too many legs and glowing red sensors where eyes should be. Chen recognized them from historical archives. Scythers, autonomous combat drones from the Nebula Wars. Weapons that should have been extinct for centuries. As the first Scyther leaked toward the pinned Valkyrie warrior, Lieutenant Maya Chen made a decision that would alter both their fates forever. She charged into the collapsing building, firing precisely at the attacking drone, her mind already calculating how to save a being who had survived 3 centuries of warfare, only to be ambushed on what should have been a routine mission. The war machines clicked in unison as they registered a new target, their ancient programming recognizing the threat. Behind them, the pillar of light pulsed more intensely, as if responding to the violence unfolding in its shadow. And deep within the fallen research station, something ancient was waking up. Dark horizons. The Scyther drones moved with terrible precision, metallic legs clicking against the floor as they converged on Derek. 3 centuries had dulled neither their reflexes nor their deadly purpose. The commander fired his pulse rifle one-handed while struggling to free himself from the debris, each shot disintegrating a drone in a shower of sparks. But for each one he destroyed, 2 more emerged from the shadows. Lieutenant Chen vaulted over a fallen support beam, her lighter frame allowing her to navigate the structural chaos with surprising agility. She fired her sidearm in controlled bursts, not at the drones themselves but at the ceiling above them. Weakened plating crashed down, crushing several Scythers beneath its weight. "Unorthodox targeting," Derek observed, his tone neutral despite the situation. "Effective targeting," Chen corrected, reaching his position. She holstered her weapon and began clearing debris from his pinned leg. "Can you move it?" Derek's exoskeleton shifted, plates realigning as he tested the limb. Functional. Minor damage only. Together they freed him from the wreckage just as more Scythers appeared, pouring through a doorway at the far end of the room. Unlike the others, these moved in formation, suggesting coordinated attack protocols. They're adapting, Chen noted, retrieving her weapon. They always do, Derek replied grimly. We need to reach that light source. Whatever's generating these drones is connected to it. They fought their way deeper into the facility, moving from room to room through a complex that had clearly been modified far beyond its original research purpose. Laboratory spaces had been converted to house unusual equipment, technology that appeared cobbled together from diverse sources, some recognizably Alliance, others completely foreign. This isn't standard research equipment, Chen observed as they passed through what had once been a biological containment area. These look like quantum phase modulators, but they've been altered. Recognize this. Derek gestured to a device partially embedded in the wall, a sphere bristling with crystalline protrusions. Chen shook her head. Valkyrie chronometric stabilizer, he said. Military technology. Classified. Should not be here. Stolen. Impossible. The knowledge to create these died with my world. A distant explosion shook the building, sending dust cascading from the ceiling. The pulsing light visible through the windows intensified momentarily. We're running out of time, Derek stated, moving toward what appeared to be the central laboratory. Whatever they've activated is becoming unstable. The door to the central lab was sealed, a massive security barrier designed to contain catastrophic events. Derek examined the locking mechanism, then stepped back. 17-layer encryption, beyond my clearance. Chen moved forward, studying the panel. May I? Derek gestured for her to proceed, watching with mild curiosity as she removed a small device from her field kit and attached it to the access panel. The device hummed softly as it interfaced with the locking mechanism. This would be significantly easier with your authorization, Commander, Chen said, fingers moving across the device's surface. Particularly if you have Omega-level clearance. Derek's secondary eyelids flickered in surprise. How do you know about Omega clearance? I didn't. Until now. Chen smiled slightly, continuing her work. Thank you for confirming. For the first time in decades, Derek felt something like grudging respect. The human had manipulated him, subtly, skillfully. Few beings would dare attempt such a thing. Your personnel file mentioned unorthodox approaches, he said. It did not mention deception. Not deception, Chen corrected. Information gathering under pressure. There's a difference. Before Derek could respond, the security door hissed and began to retract. Beyond it lay the source of the pulsing light, a massive construct in the center of the laboratory, surrounded by the bodies of research personnel and security officers. The device resembled nothing so much as a tear in reality itself, a jagged vertical wound in space from which poured impossible light. Around its base, complex machinery hummed and pulsed, clearly struggling to contain whatever force was being channeled through the rift. Tachyon stabilization field. Derek identified immediately. They've opened a controlled temporal rift. Controlled seems optimistic, Chen observed, noting the warning indicators flashing across monitoring equipment. She moved to one of the still-functioning terminals, fingers flying across the interface. According to these logs, they were attempting to create a stable portal to somewhere. The coordinates aren't any recognized location in Alliance space. Not somewhere, Derek corrected, examining the bodies nearest the rift. Someone. Note the temporal displacement indicators. The fallen researchers nearest the portal showed disturbing signs. Parts of their bodies appeared aged decades in minutes, while others seemed reversed to an almost embryonic state. Time itself had become unstable around them. They were trying to reach the past, Chen realized, scanning through more data. Specifically, 302 years ago. The Nebula Wars era. Derek went very still. The final days of Valkyrie Prime. Why would Alliance researchers? Chen began, but stopped as understanding dawned. These weren't Alliance operations. This was something else. Precisely. Derek moved cautiously around the perimeter of the rift, examining the dead. Note the insignia. Half hidden beneath a researcher's lab coat was a symbol Chen didn't recognize, a stylized nebula with 9 stars arranged in a specific pattern. The eternal continuity, Derek said, his voice hardening. A fringe movement that believes certain events in history must be adjusted to ensure the proper development of galactic civilization. Time terrorists, Chen translated. Indeed, Derek gestured to the rift. They sought to change the outcome of the Nebula Wars, specifically to ensure the complete extinction of my species. Chen frowned. But why? The Valkyrie have been Alliance members for centuries. Not by choice, Derek replied. We were warriors once. Conquerors, some would say. When our homeworld fell and our numbers were decimated, we had little option but to accept Alliance protection. Some believe that had we remained at full strength, the galaxy would have followed a very different path. A sudden surge from the rift interrupted them, the light pulsing violently as the stabilization field fluctuated. From within the tear came a high-pitched, keening sound, like metal under immense stress. The containment is failing, Chen said, checking readings. If this collapses completely. Temporal cascade, Derek finished. Everything within 50 kilometers will experience simultaneous existence across multiple time streams. Effectively, instant death. Can we shut it down? No, but we can collapse it in a controlled manner. Derek moved to what appeared to be the main control console. I need access to the primary tachyon regulators. Chen joined him, quickly identifying the relevant systems. Here. But the automatic shutdown sequence has been locked out. We'll have to do it manually. That will require one of us to approach the rift directly, Derek noted. The radiation would be lethal to your human physiology. And to Valkyrie? Chen asked, though she suspected the answer. Less immediately fatal. Derek's mandibles clicked once. My species evolved in a region with natural temporal instabilities. We have tolerance. Before they could implement their plan, a harsh mechanical screech echoed through the laboratory. Turning, they saw dozens of Sithers pouring through a previously hidden entrance, but these were different from the earlier waves. Larger, more heavily armored, with weapons integrated into their chassis. Medical for full decontamination and examination. Admiral, Derek began, the temporal signatures we encountered. I am well aware of the unique challenges posed by temporal radiation. Commander, Voss interrupted. Dr. Narration has been briefed accordingly. As the Admiral departed with the data drive, Dr. Narration approached, her tendrils already beginning their non-invasive scan of both officers. The lieutenant first, Derek instructed. She sustained direct physical injury and closer proximity to the rift during collapse. Narration's faceted eyes blinked in surprise at the commander's concern for his human subordinate, but she simply nodded. This way, Lieutenant. 3 days later, Derek stood in the training deck, moving through ancient Valkyrie battle forms with fluid precision, despite his massive frame. Each movement flowed into the next, a deadly dance perfected over centuries. His mind, however, was uncharacteristically distracted. The door opened, and Lieutenant Chen entered. She moved with only the slightest hint of stiffness, the medical treatments having addressed the worst of her injuries. Lieutenant, Derek acknowledged without pausing his exercises. Dr. Narration cleared you for duty. This morning, Chen confirmed. No signs of temporal sickness or permanent damage from the Scyther attack. Good. Derek completed his sequence before turning to face her fully. Admiral Voss has restricted access to the data you recovered. Security classification Omega 7. Chen's eyebrows rose. In the center, where the rift had been, nothing remained but a perfect hemisphere of absolute stillness, a bubble of frozen time that would likely remain for centuries. Derek and Chen stood at the edge of the scorched perimeter, watching as the temporal distortions slowly stabilized. The Sithers had been caught in the collapse, their metallic bodies frozen in various states of temporal flux. That, Chen said finally, catching her breath, was closer than I'd prefer. Derek turned to regard her, his expression unreadable. "You returned for data," he stated rather than asked, noticing the portable drive clutched in her hand. Chen nodded. Everything they had on the Rift technology and their plans. Someone authorized this operation. Someone with significant resources and high-level access. Someone who will not be pleased we interfered, Darek added. "No," Chen agreed. "I suspect they won't." Darek was silent for a moment, his ancient eyes studying the human with new consideration. Then he said something that surprised both of them. "You did well, Lieutenant." Chen blinked, clearly not expecting the praise. "Thank you, Commander. Your approach was unconventional, but effective." Darek turned and began walking toward their shuttle. Perhaps Admiral Voss was not entirely misguided in his personnel assignment. Coming from the last Guardian, it was high praise indeed. As they boarded the shuttle and prepared to return to the Eternal Vigilance, both knew that what they had discovered was merely the beginning. The Eternal Continuity had resources, determination, and apparently high-level support within the Alliance itself. And they had specifically targeted the Valkyrie, a species already on the edge of extinction. As the shuttle lifted off, Chen studied her taciturn commander. 3 centuries of warfare had turned Darek Ozerin into a living weapon, isolated and feared. But today she had glimpsed something else beneath the armored exterior, a being who still believed in his mission enough to risk himself for others, a warrior who recognized value in approaches different from his own. Perhaps, Chen thought, there was more to the ancient Guardian than the legends suggested, and perhaps that was exactly what they would need for the battles that lay ahead. Fractured trust. The return journey to the Eternal Vigilance passed in calculated silence. Lieutenant Chen examined her wounded side where the scyther's serrated limb had penetrated her lighter armor, applying a medical sealant from the shuttle's first aid kit. Darek piloted with mechanical precision, his expression unreadable. Only the occasional click of his mandibles betrayed his deep contemplation. "You require proper medical attention," he finally stated, not looking away from the controls. "It's superficial," Chen replied. "The sealant will hold until we return. The wound, perhaps. The temporal exposure is another matter." Chen paused. The sensors didn't register dangerous levels. Alliance sensors are calibrated for standard temporal radiation. What we encountered was... Darek's plates shifted slightly. "Non-standard. Are you concerned for my health, Commander?" Chen asked, a hint of surprise in her voice. "I am concerned for mission effectiveness," Darek corrected, though without his usual harshness. "Delayed temporal sickness would compromise your functionality." Chen studied him for a moment. "Of course. Mission effectiveness." The shuttle docked with the Eternal Vigilance 6 hours after their departure. Admiral Voss himself was waiting in the hangar bay, his 4 arms clasped behind his back in a posture of formal concern. Beside him stood the ship's chief medical officer, Dr. Narration, her Thessian tendrils already extending in anticipation of patients to examine. "Report," Voss demanded as soon as they disembarked. "The research team is dead," Darek stated flatly. The facility contained a temporal rift, now neutralized. The operation appears to have been conducted by the Eternal Continuity, not sanctioned Alliance researchers. Voss's secondary eyes narrowed. "That's a serious accusation, Commander." "It is a factual observation," Darek replied. Lieutenant Chen secured data confirming their involvement. Chen stepped forward, offering the portable drive. The facility was using Sci-Fi technology to create a stable temporal gateway. Their target was specific: the fall of Valkyrie Prime, approximately 302 years ago. "To what end?" Voss asked, taking the drive. "To ensure the complete extinction of my species," Darek answered, his voice devoid of emotion. "They were sending scyther drones back through time to guarantee no Valkyrie would survive the destruction of our homeworld." A heavy silence fell across the hangar bay. Even the techs working nearby slowed their activities, the gravity of the statement reaching them all. "I will review this data personally," Voss finally said, his tone solemn. "In the meantime, Both of you report to command units, Derek identified, raising his pulse rifle. The drone intelligence controlling the others. Chen checked her weapons charge. How many do we need to destroy? All of them. The drones attacked in perfect coordination, some charging directly while others circled to flank them. Derek met them head-on, his ancient battlefield experience evident in every movement. He didn't simply shoot the machines. He predicted their patterns, positioned himself to force them into disadvantageous formations, and maximized every shot. Chen took a different approach. Rather than engaging directly, she used the laboratory equipment as both cover and weapon, overloading power cells to create localized explosions and using maintenance hatches to outmaneuver the machines. Where Derek was a fortress, she was a ghost, there and gone before the drones could adjust their targeting. Together, they were devastating. When one drone finally managed to slip past Derek's defenses, scoring a deep gouge across his armored back, Chen was there instantly, jamming her sidearm directly into its central processor and firing. When Chen found herself cornered by 3 machines, Derek's precise shots destroyed them in rapid succession. But the drones kept coming, and the rift grew increasingly unstable. "We cannot defeat them all before the containment fails," Derek stated, his voice calm despite the dire situation. "I will approach the rift and initiate collapse. You will return to the shuttle." "That's suicide," Chen objected. "Even with your temporal tolerance, direct exposure is preferable to failure," Derek interrupted. "The mission parameters are clear. The rift must be closed." Chen studied him for a moment, then did something that genuinely surprised the ancient warrior. She smiled. "With respect, Commander, I have a better idea." Without waiting for his response, Chen triggered an emergency evacuation alarm. Throughout the facility, warning klaxons blared and automated systems activated. Most importantly, emergency containment fields snapped into place around various sections of the complex, including the laboratory entrance, where the drones were trying to force their way in. "That will only hold them temporarily," Derek noted. "We don't need long." Chen was already moving toward a secondary console. The research team built in failsafes, containment field generators that can be inverted to collapse the rift. But they need to be activated simultaneously from 2 different control points. Derek quickly grasped her plan. "Distance reduces radiation exposure." "Exactly." Chen nodded toward a console on the opposite side of the laboratory. "Primary activation there, secondary here. We trigger them together, then run like hell before the temporal collapse reaches us." For a moment, Derek simply stared at her. Then, to Chen's astonishment, his mandibles shifted in what she recognized from xenobiology studies as a Valkyrie expression of approval. "Unconventional," he acknowledged, "but potentially effective." They moved to their respective positions as the containment field at the entrance began to flicker under the relentless assault of the Sithers. The rift pulsed more violently, reality itself seeming to warp around its edges. "On my mark," Derek called out. 3, 2, 1. Execute. They activated their controls simultaneously. The machinery surrounding the rift shrieked in protest as power was redirected, the stabilization field inverting to become a compression wave. The tear in reality began to constrict, the impossible light shifting toward deep ultraviolet. "Move," Derek ordered, already heading toward the rear emergency exit. Chen followed, both of them sprinting away from the collapsing rift, as reality itself seemed to groan around them. They had almost reached the exit when the laboratory door finally gave way, Sithers pouring through the breach. Chen fired over her shoulder without slowing, but one of the machines launched itself in a desperate leap, crashing into her back and sending both tumbling to the floor. Derek turned at the sound, seeing Chen struggling with the drone as its serrated limbs sought purchase against her armor. Without hesitation, he charged back toward her, even as the rift's collapse accelerated. The drone raised a bladed appendage, poised to strike Chen's unprotected neck, only to be literally torn apart by Derek's massive hands. The Valkyrie warrior hauled Chen to her feet with one fluid motion, practically carrying her toward the exit as the rift collapsed behind them, with a sound like the universe itself drawing a final breath. They barely cleared the outer perimeter of the facility when the implosion completed. A shockwave of distorted time rippled outward, aging the research buildings decades and seconds. The trees at the edge of the clearing withered, died, and crumbled to dust, while others regressed to saplings before stabilizing.